Every few weeks, somebody asks us the same question in a slightly different accent. Is Snowflake dead? Sometimes it's stressed up. Should we be worried about our Snowflake investment? Sometimes it's blunt. A CDO last month. Everyone's moving to Fabric or Databricks. Are we behind? And every time my answer disappoints people a little because it's not yes and it's not no.
Here's what's actually happened. Snowflake didn't get replaced, it got surrounded. 3 years ago, if you were building a cloud data warehouse, Snowflake was close to the default answer. Today, it's one strong answer among three or four, and the other options have gotten very good, very fast. Databricks has spent 2 years adding SQL and governance to look more like a warehouse. Snowflake has spent 2 years adding Python and ML to look more like a lakehouse. And Microsoft has bundled the whole conversation into Fabric and put it in front of every Power BI customer on the planet.
So the honest answer to is Snowflake dead is this. Snowflake still commands somewhere around a third of the enterprise data warehousing market. That is not a company in decline. But it is no longer the automatic default. And for a specific kind of buyer, it's no longer even the first platform evaluated. That's the conversation today. Not hype, not obituary, just where does Snowflake actually still win and where has the ground moved?
Welcome to Discovery to Solutions, where we bring technology conversations from the whiteboard to reality. I'm Kavya Malhotra.
And I'm Karan Khanna. Today, Snowflake in 2026. Still relevant or being replaced? We're going to talk about where Snowflake sits now that Fabric and Databricks have closed the gap. When it's still genuinely the best answer on the table. The migration patterns we're actually seeing in client conversations. In both directions, by the way, not just one. And the cost conversation nobody explains properly. Consumption versus capacity. And why that decision is bigger than most procurement teams treat it.
If you're sitting on a Snowflake estate wondering whether you made the wrong long term bet, or you're evaluating platforms right now and Snowflake is one of three logos on your shortlist, this episode is for you.
Let's start with the market shape because it explains everything else. Snowflake still holds the largest installed base among business intelligence and analytics first organizations. SQL first shops, people who think in tables and joins, not notebooks. Databricks has pulled ahead, specifically among engineering heavy, AI focused teams. Anyone doing serious machine learning at scale, anyone building on unstructured data. And Fabric has become the default gravitational pull for anyone already sitting inside the Microsoft ecosystem because it folds Power BI, data engineering, and AI into one bill and one login.
What's actually happening underneath those numbers is convergence, not replacement. Databricks spent 2 years bolting SQL warehousing and governance onto a platform that used to be Python and Spark only. Snowflake spent 2 years bolting Python, Snowpark, and ML tooling onto a platform that used to be SQL only. They're reaching toward each other from opposite starting points. Which means the question isn't really which platform is winning, it's which starting point matches how your organization actually works today.
And here's the thing people miss about Fabric specifically. Fabric isn't competing with Snowflake by being a better warehouse. In a lot of head to head benchmarks, Snowflake still edges out Databricks SQL warehouses on raw BI query response time. Fabric is competing by being already in the building. If your organization is Microsoft centric, Azure infrastructure, Power BI on every desk, Entra ID running identity, Fabric doesn't have to win on technical merit alone. It wins on the fact that it removes a vendor, a login, and a procurement conversation. That is a genuinely different kind of competition. It's not our engine is faster. It's you already pay for this.
Which is exactly why Snowflake's primary threat in board conversations isn't a feature gap. It's Databricks, because it now competes across the entire stack. Ingestion through AI, not just the warehouse layer. Fabric is a different kind of threat, an ecosystem gravity well for Microsoft shops. And that split matters because the right response to each is completely different.
So let's answer the actual question people bring to us. When should Snowflake still be the first name on the shortlist? Three scenarios, and we see all three regularly. 1. SQL first teams. If your analysts, your BI developers, and your data team think and work almost entirely in SQL, Snowflake is still, in our experience, the smoothest operating experience on the market. You're not managing clusters. You're not tuning Spark configs. You write SQL, you pick a warehouse size, it runs. For a team of analysts who don't want to become platform engineers, that simplicity is not a minor convenience. It's the whole value proposition.
2. Multi cloud and cloud neutrality. This is the one executives underweight until it becomes urgent. If your organization genuinely operates across AWS, Azure, and GCP through acquisitions, through regulatory requirements, through deliberate vendor risk management, Snowflake runs natively on all three. Fabric is architecturally an Azure product. Databricks is more portable but still carries meaningfully more operational complexity to run consistently across clouds. For a business that has decided, as a matter of policy, that it will not be single cloud, Snowflake remains the benchmark.
3. And this is genuinely underrated, data sharing. Snowflake's data sharing and marketplace capability lets you share a live dataset with another organization without copying it, without building a pipeline, without an SFTP folder anybody has to babysit. We've seen this be the deciding factor for insurance firms sharing claims data with reinsurance partners, financial services firms sharing data with regulators on a recurring basis, energy trading desks sharing market data with counterparties in near real time. In every one of those cases, the alternative was some version of nightly file drops and a small army of people reconciling schemas. Snowflake made that problem disappear years before the competition took it seriously, and it's still ahead there.
So, the honest shortlist test we give clients is this: if your workload is SQL first, your environment is genuinely multi cloud, or your business model depends on sharing data across organizational boundaries. Those three conditions still point straight at Snowflake. If none of those are true, the conversation should be more open.
Now let's talk about what's actually moving. Because the narrative online is everyone's leaving Snowflake for Fabric or Databricks. That's not quite what we see.
There are two migration patterns happening at once, and most commentary only talks about one of them. Pattern one, and this is real: Microsoft centric organizations that adopted Snowflake a few years ago, before Fabric existed in its current form, are reevaluating. Not always migrating fully, often it's new workloads going to Fabric, while the Snowflake estate stays in place for what it's already good at. That's the more common outcome, actually, and not a rip and replace, but a slow rebalancing of where new projects land.
Pattern 2, the one that gets less attention. Organizations moving toward Databricks, specifically for AI and ML heavy workloads, while keeping Snowflake for the BI and reporting layer that was already working fine. We are not, in practice, seeing many clean move everything from Snowflake to Fabric migrations. What we're seeing is workload splitting. New AI initiative goes to Databricks. New Microsoft ecosystem reporting build goes to Fabric. Existing SQL first analytics estate that already works stays on Snowflake. That's a very different picture from the headlines.
And there's a coexistence pattern worth naming specifically because it changes the calculus for a lot of clients. Fabric can mirror a Snowflake database directly into one lake, with the replication compute and mirrored storage effectively free up to your capacity size. Which means a Microsoft centric enterprise that already has Snowflake in place doesn't have to choose. There's a documented path to run both, with Fabric consuming Snowflake data without a forced migration. That single feature has quietly killed a lot of migration projects that were being planned purely out of platform anxiety rather than actual need.
Which is the real lesson from the migration patterns we're seeing. The organizations making good decisions aren't asking, Should we leave Snowflake? They're asking where does each new workload actually belong and letting the answer be different for different workloads. The ones making bad decisions are the ones migrating an entire estate because a vendor logo felt more current on a conference stage.
Now, the cost conversation. This is the one that gets misrepresented in almost every sales deck we've sat through, from both sides.
Snowflake sells consumption, Fabric sells capacity. That's the entire structural difference, and almost everything else follows from it. Snowflake builds compute in credits. Different virtual warehouse sizes burn credits at different rates, and every size up roughly doubles the burn rate per hour. Storage is built separately, somewhere in the $23 to $40 per terabyte per month range, depending on region and commitment. You pay for exactly what you use, which sounds great, until a warehouse that should auto suspend doesn't. And finance calls asking why last month's bill jumped 40% with no corresponding jump in usage anyone can explain.
Fabric, by contrast, sells you a fixed pool of capacity units, an FSKU, and every workload runs against that same pool. Data engineering, warehousing, Power BI, real time analytics, AI features. One bill, predictable whether your query load is heavy or light that month. That predictability is genuinely valuable to a finance team that wants to forecast 12 months out without a FinOps function watching warehouse behavior daily.
So here's the trade off, stated as plainly as I can put it. Consumption pricing is more efficient when your workload is genuinely variable. Seasonal spikes, unpredictable analytical demand, long quiet periods between bursts of activity. You're not paying for capacity you're not using. Capacity pricing is more efficient when your workload is steady and predictable. Consistent daily reporting, consistent pipeline runs, consistent BI usage across the business. You're not paying a premium every time a warehouse spins up. Cost comparisons that don't ask which of those two profiles actually describes your organization are not comparisons. They're marketing.
And the number worth sitting with. For a typical mid market enterprise running consistent, steady analytical workloads, Fabric's capacity model has been shown to deliver something in the range of 30 to 40% cost savings against an equivalent Snowflake consumption footprint. But flip the workload profile, highly variable, seasonal, unpredictable, and that advantage can disappear or reverse entirely. There is no universal winner here. There is only a winner for your specific usage pattern.
One more thing that gets left out of almost every vendor comparison, and it matters more than the headline number. Consumption pricing puts the cost control burden on your team every single day. Auto suspend policies, warehouse sizing discipline, tagging, monitoring. That's an operational muscle you have to build and maintain. Capacity pricing puts the burden up front at the sizing and procurement decision. Pick the wrong FSQ, and you're either throttling workloads or paying for headroom you don't use. Neither one is set it and forget it. They just move the discipline to a different part of the calendar.
Which is why the question we always put back to a client isn't which is cheaper. It's which kind of financial discipline does your organization already have or is willing to build. A team with a mature FinOps practice can make consumption pricing sing. A team without one will bleed money on either platform. They'll just bleed it in different places. All right, the moment of truth. A CDO calls us. They've got Snowflake in place, Fabric and Databricks on the table for new work, and a board asking whether they're on the wrong platform.
First, don't evaluate this as one decision. Evaluate it workload by workload. Ask for every new initiative. Is this SQL first analytics, AI and ML engineering, or Microsoft ecosystem reporting? Those three questions send you to three different places more often than they send you to the same place. Stop looking for one platform to win the whole conversation. That search is what wastes 18 months. Second, before you touch the cost model, Be honest about your usage pattern, steady and predictable, or spiky and variable. That answer, more than any vendor discount, tells you whether consumption or capacity pricing actually favors you. If nobody in the room can answer that with real usage data, that's the first project, before any migration conversation. Third, if data sharing across organizational boundaries is core to how your business operates, don't treat that as a minor feature comparison. That capability alone has been the deciding factor in deals worth far more than the platform license itself.
And my addition, check whether you actually need to migrate at all before you plan a migration. With mirroring paths now letting Fabric consume Snowflake data natively, a lot of what used to be framed as rip and replace can be run both and let workloads settle into the platform that fits them. The organizations getting this right in 2026 aren't the ones who picked a winner in the Snowflake versus Fabric versus Databricks debate. They're the ones who stopped treating it as a debate and started treating it as workload routing.
Snowflake isn't dead. It's not even declining in absolute terms. It's just no longer the only name in the room. And for a lot of organizations, that's actually the healthier place for the market to be. Competition made all three platforms better. Nobody wins by pretending otherwise.
So, Snowflake in 2026, still relevant, still the right answer for SQL first teams, multi cloud environments, and data sharing at scale. Being replaced for a lot of new AI and ML workloads, and losing default status inside Microsoft centric organizations. Both of those things are true at the same time. That's not a contradiction, that's just what a maturing market looks like.
If you're sitting on a platform decision right now, don't ask which vendor is winning the industry conversation. Ask which vendor fits the workload in front of you. Then ask it again for the next workload. The answer won't always be the same platform, and that's fine.
Next episode, we're leaving the platform wars behind and going somewhere every data and AI team eventually has to go. Episode 10, ML Ops, why your ML models keep dying in production. We'll get into why roughly 60% of machine learning models degrade within 6 months of going live, and why most teams still don't have drift detection running anywhere. The gap between a beautiful notebook and a production system nobody wants to talk about. Feature stores, what they actually solve, and the much smaller number of teams that genuinely need one. And the ML Ops maturity model, from a data scientist manually retraining a model on their laptop to a fully automated retraining pipeline nobody has to think about.
If you've ever shipped a model that worked beautifully in the demo and quietly stopped working 3 months later, you'll want this one. See you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to us on Discovery to Solutions.